On July 29, 2022, the Elmo 2 fire ignited on Highway 28 west of Big Arm, Montana. The fire grew to an estimated 21,345 acres, and within that area, 8 structures were lost to the blaze.
I'm Mark Clary with the Lake County Office of Emergency Management, and together with our partner agencies, the Montana DNRC and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes, would like to take a closer look and learn more about what happened and share those lessons so others can prepare their homes and property from wildfire.
We were under red flag warnings for a couple of days. High winds, high temperatures, and low relative humidities. So if you have a fire that is going, or if you get a fire, you have to recognize that it's going to be one of those days. It's going to be tough to catch, tough to get a hold of. Yeah, it's going to need a strong initial attack.
When I first rolled on a fire, it was actually probably about 7 miles from the community. They were very strong, very steady winds. We looked at aviation, trying to cut the head of the fire off from moving towards the community. The smoke was laying in towards the front of the fire, so we couldn't get the aviation assets to actually lay retardant in the front. We moved away from actually trying to stop the fire to protecting homes. So if there are homes that are going to be hard to protect or in a bad location, that takes more of our time and our focus away from actually trying to put the fire out.
There have been a number of post-fire investigations, and they have consistently pointed to the importance of embers in terms of home ignitions. Between 50 and 90% of homes that are lost during a wildland fire are from ember ignitions. So that really points to how important it is to build a home that can resist ember ignitions. The home that was lost was directly behind me. It was a log home, not completely finished. When we think about how homes are ignited and lost during a wildfire, it's important to think about the pathways where fire could spread to the house. In this case, it seems pretty clear that it was an ember ignition scenario. An ember ignition in the lumber debris pile shown here was a likely cause of ignition. So we're at a house that was damaged, not destroyed. You can see these vinyl gutters fell off the roof, but there was debris in them, pine needle debris inside the gutter. Embers ignited the debris. Once the pine needles burned, then the gutter stopped burning. The fire and the wood didn't sustain, so it self-extinguished. The fire was burning below the house and burned upslope towards it, but there's a fairly big, tall rock wall downslope of the house, and that protects the house from fire burning upslope to it. There's a nice sidewalk in front of the house. That's a very good detail to make the house less vulnerable to embers. Good features.
The main thing is not to have any wood or a lot less wood on the exterior. There's a lot of stone. I have a lot of stone on the property, and I figured if we had a fire up here, it'd be fast. Or it'd blow through, and that probably didn't have a lot of time to ignite, but I don't really know it. From what I see now, I way underestimated that.
We're at a house that survived undamaged, and there are several features about this house that can explain why that happened. First of all, it's very good defensible space, so trees have been thinned and removed, and those trees that remain have been limbed up, so hard for a fire to climb up into them. The house itself, you'll notice that there's a concrete foundation where there's a couple of 3 feet between the ground and the start of the siding. This is an excellent feature. And then you'll notice also underneath the overhang There's a concrete slab, but beyond that, there's stonework. So there's a non-combustible zone right next to the house for a few feet. This combination of horizontal and vertical non-combustible zone is excellent to minimize the chance of ember ignition of the house itself, and has a metal roof, which is also a very good feature. You'll notice that the profile of it leaves gaps between the roof and the roof deck, and those openings, before fire comes, a lot of debris can blow up under there, and during a wildfire, embers can blow up into that same between the roof covering and the roof deck part. In this case, you could just use non-combustible materials to plug that opening. The one thing that I would suggest change here is the location of the wood pile underneath that overhang. There's probably a fair amount of debris inside the wood pile. Embers could ignite that wood pile, and that would be the pathway to destruction of the house. So in that sense, they were fortunate that embers did not ignite the wood pile.
All of those little things add up and, minimize or affect our ability to be successful in protecting homes.
The more the homeowner preps his home, fireproof it, the more we can do and focus on the fire itself.
You've got to do some things up front to help us be successful.
In the last 2 years, we've had fires in our county that have destroyed homes. And coming up on this scene and going through this fire area after it was over, it really opened my eyes. We have to have the appropriate roads to get fire trucks in and out and people evacuated. We have to teach people that they have personal responsibility in this, because fire like this can destroy your property. It's important that we do as much as we can to stop this. If they're going to build here, if somebody's going to develop a subdivision, they need to have it set up so the people moving here know what they're moving into.
From a fire manager standpoint, there will be difficult situations with road access not being what we need it to be, where we won't be sending crews in. It's not worth the risk to their life to save a home. And so if the road access isn't something where we can get them in and safely out, then we just won't send the crews in that area. So having wider roads, ingress, egress, a way out that maybe isn't as well maintained as main road, but is an opportunity for folks to evacuate out of is very important.
Taking the necessary precautions before you build, along with maintaining the fire zones around your home, increase the chances of structure survival, along with allowing firefighters to focus on the fire instead of individual homes. And while 8 structures were lost, fortunately no one lost their life. But building here brought great risk to firefighters and residents. If you choose to live in a setting like this, understand you'll be living in an active fire environment. Be prepared and be ready for the outcomes.